All right, hello AP World students. This is Mr. Brown teaching you about the past. We're going to start with Unit 0, so this is sort of setting up for what you got to know in this course. The world at 1200. This is really year 0 of AP World, and I just thought I'd give you a perspective of what's going on planet Earth. The short answer is in 1200, the world's not really a great place. And the purpose of this course is to teach you how the world gets from not being so great to what it is today. So let's check it out. So this is 800 years in the past. All right, so I have a color coding system with my slideshows. If you've had me for AP Human, it's the exact same system, but I'll go over it now so you're all aware. I am going to require students to take notes during my main presentations. I will have you scan, upload, show me the notes in some way, shape, or form. So this is the coloring system. If you see something is purple, it will absolutely be on a test. It's something you absolutely have to know. I have made sure with designing my AP World curriculum that every single thing in purple is specifically mentioned in the College Board's course articulation guide. So it's not just Mr. Brown wants you to know it. I mean, of course I want you to know it, but it's the College Board themselves have said this stuff is totally fair game for the AP test. So make the purple things happen. So if you see something in purple, absolutely write it down in your notes and then highlight it, underline it, circle it, write it in a different color. Just make it stand out from the rest of your notes in some way. It will be on a test. Okay, and if you see something in black, something in kind of the standard color of text, it's usually explaining a purple term, and you should summarize it or write it down. So if you see something in black, just write it down. I think that's the right thing to do. This is kind of a new color. If you see something in blue, it's something that maybe you don't have to write down every word. It might be repeated info. I'm not going to require you to write down anything in blue, but maybe it's something you might want to summarize, and it's sort of an optional thing to write down in your notes. Okay, and then lastly, if you see something in red is not for the students to write down at all. Something in red is for me. It's to inspire my memory. It wouldn't make sense in notes. Maybe it's like a joke I wanted to say. So red is my color. Stop on red, but definitely write down especially purple and black. Okay, so this coloring system you're going to see in every presentation I ever do, so be aware of it. Great, perfect. Moving on. All right, let's get into the past. So what's going on planet Earth, what is this, 820 years ago? Well, the economy, 95% of people on planet Earth, probably even more than 95%, are full-time subsistence farmers. Anywhere on planet Earth. You go to Africa, you go to China, you go to Europe, you go to Mexico. People are just farming all the time. And a subsistence farmer, an AP Human Geo kid would hopefully chime in because we really deep dived into this in that course. A subsistence farmer is somebody who grows food just for themselves and their family. Maybe they sell a little bit of it in the market, but for the most part, you're a farmer. And you're old McDonald, okay? That's a subsistence farmer. It's somebody who's just growing food for themselves and their family. Here's another interesting fact. 95% of people on planet Earth never go more than 20 miles from where they're born to where they die. So to give you some perspective, in Las Vegas, if you live here in Southern Highlands or Mountain's Edge, and you've ever been to Mount Charleston, or you've ever been to Boulder City, you've already gone farther than the vast majority of people who lived 820 years ago. So a lot of people are just kind of born in a village and die in a village, and they just farm their whole lives. That's the reality of the world back then. A few people, so this 5% that's not a part of these subsistence farmer villager people, a few merchants and craftsmen, they're isolated. They're very little economic integration across countries. Some people travel around, but it's not common. Also, the European and Asian world, they're definitely the places you want to be, especially the Asian world at this time. Europe is just coming out of the Dark Ages. But Asia especially has some huge technological advantages. So if you get in a time machine and you clock it back 820 years, go to China. Okay, it's a great place. Africa's in the Iron Age, and the Americas are in the Copper Age. So some technology perspective over here in this part of the world, in the Americas, we haven't even invented the wheel. So there's very little technology helping people's lives, but especially Asia, that's where things were happening. All right, let's move on. So let's talk about some global interactions, okay? The Americas are just so isolated. You got the Pacific Ocean, the Atlantic Ocean. There's virtually no interaction with the rest of the outside world. You could tell me about the Vikings and the voyages of Zheng He, but I'm ignoring those because this part of the world, the vast majority of people on planet Earth had no idea the Americas existed, and the Americas had no idea that Europe, Asia, Africa existed. So we were just cut off from everybody. And it's a similar thing with Southern Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa, too, because Africa has this huge desert at the top of it, the Sahara Desert, and people in Europe legitimately thought the Sahara Desert went on forever. It was unmapped, it was considered too big, so sub-Saharan Africa might as well have been their own island too. They had some trade with the rest of the world, so they were a little bit better off than the Americas, but they're definitely not as connected. Asia and Europe have had a long history of interaction. There was this dude back in 300 BC, so this guy's way in the past, named Alexander the Great. He marched an army from Greece all the way to India, and he kind of connected those two parts of the world for a little bit, but it didn't last. And yeah, the interaction, especially between Europe, the Middle East, India, China, North Africa, that gave a technological and economic advantage at the start of the year 1200. It's sort of like you could think about it. This side of the world is just so disconnected, they can't share ideas or technology. Sub-Saharan Africa, it's this big old desert just blocks them off from receiving ideas and technology. But this whole part of the world is very interconnected. And when you just have so many more societies and people sharing ideas, you're definitely going to have some advantages when it comes to technology and economics leading into history. Okay? Important stuff to know. Okay, so now the world is in the medieval era. It's especially applied to Europe. Every single government I can think of on planet Earth at this point is 100% a monarchy. They are ruled by kings or queens, sometimes emperors, sometimes shahs, sometimes caliphs. But the idea that there is one powerful man, and there's some women, they're not very common. A one powerful man is, yeah, see, I say right there. Let's be real. 98% of all monarchs in world history that held power were kings. So these 98% of which were men stood up there and said, like, I'm in charge, follow my rules, or I'll kill you. And yeah, that kind of sucks. So I'm obviously not a big fan of monarchy, and there's still some monarchies in our world today. But in the past, everybody had a monarchy. 50% of people on planet Earth, maybe more, maybe less, it's kind of a rough estimation, are functionally slaves. And I'm going to deep dive into this because back in the day, you didn't have rights. If your king or your lord told you to do something and you didn't do it, they could just kill you. So, hey. And why else am I saying people are functionally slaves? Well, a lot of people cannot leave their land. They must pay a portion of the food they harvest to their government. Their government can conscript men at will. That means, like, hey, I'm forcing you to join the military, join or die. No freedom of speech, no freedom of assembly, no freedom of movement. Okay, like, if you were like, hey, I want to go visit some friends in California, like, you'd have to get all kinds of approval and stuff. You can't just go wherever you want. Also, if you're the wrong religion, your government will probably kill you. So this concept of freedom, not a big thing in the world of 1200. And also, I should add this in here too. Most people are really, really dumb. There's no public education. The vast majority of people can't read. I know there's a lot of societies that sort of said we only want the people in the core king's circle to even know how to read. Maybe they would teach peasants some basic like math and stuff so they could farm a little better. But yeah, it was a very inaccessible society, and for the most part, people were not treated great. And this is true in Africa, in the Americas, in Europe, and in China. Some places were better than others, for sure. I would say honestly, though, the place where almost everybody was a functional slave was medieval Europe, and I'll deep dive into that later. So Europe was the worst, but there was no place that was truly great for this concept of freedom. Okay, let's talk about religion. So, 100% of people on planet Earth are religious in this period. No one is atheist or agnostic. Everybody has some idea of this superpower up in the sky that'll tell you how to live your life, tells you what happens when you die. So, and in almost every case, there's some cases where it's not true, but the government enforces a religion on the people. So there is this connection that government and religion are intertwined, and the government says, all right, everybody's going to be a Hindu. And if you're not Hindu, you're going to have problems. And then, especially in Europe, this concept of God chose the king. We love God, therefore we love the king. Our king has God powers. Our king can turn water into wine. Our king literally saved our lives. That sort of promotes people to have this incredible devotion and loyalty to their kings or their lords. And in fact, in China, they even called the Chinese emperor the throne of heaven, the mandate of heaven. So in China, they've got this whole religious connection to their royal family as well. During this period, because everybody's so hardcore into religion and not a whole lot of people are educated, everyone's really, really superstitious. And religious information is greater than scientific information or reasoning. You could go anywhere around planet Earth in the year 1200, and when people saw a thunderstorm coming, they're like, oh, God hates us. And then when it was the dry season and rain wouldn't come, they're like, oh, we got to do the rain dance to the sky god and have water come down. So, oh yeah, and I already mentioned this. Education is only for the upper classes, so the vast majority of people are trapped in this ignorance. Sometimes they would let people study, but the only thing you could study is religion. I mean, there were some colleges in this period. I think Oxford, the famous college in England that's still a big deal today, was founded 1,000 years ago. And the college in Oxford only had one major you could study, and that major was how to be a priest, how to learn religion. And almost every person who really wanted to climb the ranks of education would be forced into this path like, oh, you want to study architecture? Not an option. Learn about Jesus. Oh, hey, you want to study plumbing? Learn about Buddha. Join a monastery. So it's not a lot of higher level reasoning going on in the ancient world. So, well, this isn't really the ancient world. This is the medieval world. What am I talking about? But yeah, so religion and government totally interconnected. Every single country I can think of. All right, now let's talk about ethnicity too. So everywhere on planet Earth in the year 1200 is very racially defined. Well, should I say everywhere? There's some places that are kind of now merging cultures and ethnic backgrounds. But for the most part, you're going to go to different parts of the world in the 1200s, and you're just going to see the exact same ethnic groups of people. You're going to go to Ireland and see red-haired people. You're going to go to Sudan and see super, super dark people. You're going to go to China and see Chinese people. There's no interconnectedness of ethnicity or racial identity. It's just not possible to see a red-haired person in Greek or in Africa, or in Greece or Africa, or especially in China. Mixed race children are also super rare. There's a whole lot of superstition about different ethnic groups and different people getting along. And this lack of human interaction definitely makes people treat each other with racism and a whole lot of different attitudes. It's definitely something that's a huge problem. But as I'll go into this course, I'll teach you guys that the Asian world started to get more and more mixed. But when Europe finally started to interact with the rest of the world, they didn't have as much mixing, so there was a lot more racist attitudes. And then here's a whole nother way I could frame this slide. So I'm going to teach you guys that in the last 820 years, the world went from a very disconnected place to now a very unified, interconnected place. And the interconnected nature of the world is called globalization. And I'm going to argue today globalization is like 80% or more. But back in the 1200s, 820 years ago, globalization was basically 0%. I mean, the vast majority of the world didn't even know the Americas were a part of our planet. So that's a pretty important aspect of globalization. So globalization was 0% then. Today it's probably like 80%. So the world will become more and more interconnected, and all these people will kind of mix and match all over planet Earth. All right, now let's talk about gender in the 1200s. Gender is a huge part of this course. If I don't say specifically, every time we bring up a new society, a student should ask me, like, Mr. Brown, what was it like being a woman in that society? And I mean, I personally don't have any real experience, but I know that the AP people really love to highlight the experiences of being a woman in various societies at various points in planet Earth. So, being a woman, pretty rough, just about anywhere in the world. I will say this, though. Native American societies and Viking societies treated women a lot better than other societies on planet Earth. If you were a woman in China, Japan, most parts of Europe, sub-Saharan Africa, for the most part, you weren't treated that great. There are some counterexamples. I can tell you about a Chinese empress. I can tell you about the Queen of England. I can tell you about Nzinga shoot, what country is Nzinga from? I want to say Malawi, but I'm okay. My brain's not perfect. See, this is why I need students around me so they can double check this stuff. But anyway, there are one-off examples of women who rise the political structures and who take over in almost every culture I can think of. But the vast majority of life as a woman, you are not treated with equality. You are not given the ability to rise the ranks. You are not allowed to own property. You are not allowed to be treated like a dude in any way. And the vast majority of women on planet Earth, your whole purpose in life is to get pregnant. You get pregnant, there's nothing you can really do for 9 months of your life. You're focused on making a baby. 10% of women died during childbirth at this time. Also, there's a 50% chance your baby dies before they're 10 years old. I think the average amount of kids a woman had was 6, but only like 3 of them survived into adulthood. And then when they survived to adulthood, then even more crazy reasons they would die too. So all over the world, women just generally get regulated into this role of being at home and caring for children. And I mean, I could get in all this gender theory stuff here, but women are capable of creating babies. And for 9 months, their body gets all contorted with a child growing inside of them. So and then there's this whole concept of maternal love for a child. So it's just been the way that so many societies have done it, where the man goes out, hunts, gathers, works on the farm, finds stuff to sell. Woman stays at home, takes care of the kids. And yeah, that's just been true in almost every society. Let me just say, I'll probably mention it later again, but in Native American societies, women were the political leaders in certain cultures. So I thought that was really cool. Also in Viking societies, they're like, hey, woman, you want to learn how to fight? Take an axe, join us on the next raid. So that's awesome as well. But in the vast majority of cultures, women were not allowed to be educated. And in also many cultures, they did the same thing. They created this system called a dowry, where if a woman wanted to get married, the the fiance husband guy was like, "Hey, I want to marry your daughter." They're like, "Okay, give us $500." So, or give us 2 goats. So women were sort of sold and considered as property. I know in some cultures in Asia, if the man died, the woman would be asked to commit suicide to be with her husband in the afterlife. So there's some really messed up stuff that occurred to women in several cultures around the world. And I mean, women still don't have complete equality on planet Earth to this day. There's still some societies in the year 2020 where being a woman is, you are legally considered less than a man. And that's messed up. Power to the ladies. But the overall quality of life of women will dramatically increase in the next 820 years over the course of this course. So expect to see a whole lot of stuff about the evolution of the status of the fairer gender. Or, well, it's kind of an unfair gender, but you know what I mean. All right, moving on. So let's talk about the environment in the year 1200. This is the one thing, so like I keep saying like things will get better over time. This is the one thing that almost certainly gets worse over time. In the 1200s, the world has almost no pollution. I think on a scale like you wouldn't even see it get to like 1%. Okay, so the world is functionally pollution free. There's a lot of travelers in the past. I've read their journals. They look up into the sky. They see a million stars. They see the Milky Way. They see meteors flying around. They see the planets. They see all kinds of cool stuff when they look up into the sky. I was walking around Southern Highlands last night. I look up into the sky. I see like 5 stars because light pollution has damaged the night sky. All the lights of the Vegas Strip just block it all out. Also, like, people look up in the sky's generally crazy blue all the time. But nowadays, there's all this, like, pollution haze that comes around our world. The vast majority of people live in small villages. They live close to farming areas. They live close to nature. I mean, it wasn't uncommon for people to die from animal attacks. I mean, is that still happening today? Not to a serious degree at all. A lot of people, they don't actually do livestock ranching during this time. Maybe you have a couple chickens. Are chickens livestock? I don't really think so. So most people actually get their meat from hunting, and hunting is, yeah, because you got so much nature and you got the animals out there, so hunting isn't going to be a problem. Me personally, I know one person who hunts in the year 2020. It's just not common anymore because just go to Walmart and you buy your meat there. But yeah, so the environment will get progressively worse as human society goes on for the next 820 years. So that's definitely another big theme to notice over the course of this course. Hey. All right, so here's some things that I need y'all to know. I've already made videos for these 5 religions, and this is how I'm going to do it. I'm going to give you guys a test on the basics of these religions. This test, it's going to be really like low-level thinking, okay? It's, hey, do you know what Christianity is about? Hey, do you know what Buddhism is about? This test is not designed at an AP level because, like, well, it's not designed at an AP level because I just want to make sure you know the basics of the 5 major world religions. These 5 religions are a huge part of human culture. They're definitely reasons why a lot of big changes and big decisions happen over the course of world history. And if you already know Christianity really well, I'm going to tell you skip the video. If you already know Hinduism really well, skip the video and just try to go straight into the test. But if you don't really know a lot about Islam, absolutely watch the video I filmed about Islam. I encourage everybody to watch these videos, but maybe you don't have to take full notes. you don't have to really invest your brain as much as you would in my other AP World presentations. Oh, it says on Google Classroom this year I got them on Canvas, but I'll give them to you somehow. All right, boom. The 5 major world religions. Make sure you know what they're about. All right, and that's it for this presentation. So this is Unit 0. Make sure you learn about the world religions in other videos. Peace out.